I'll drop it now and I know it will work. You heard it. Yo, I'm back. And today I want to talk about two microphones by Shure. They are popular. You have seen both of these microphones everywhere. Well, depending the age range that you are, right? And I'm talking about the SM7B and the SM57. Both of these mics are absolute workhorses. They're both dynamic. They both have the same polar patterns, which is cardioid. You can get a lot of mileage out of these. But it got me thinking, I don't see a lot of love these days for a SM57. I know everyone tends to just run to the SM7B because they've seen it in loads of behind the scenes work, seen their favorite artists lay some vocals down with it. You see it in podcasts all over the place, but this doesn't get as much love. Now, hear me out. I know this is marketed as an instrument microphone, but this takes the EQ really, really well and requires less gain than this here. Now, that's important because anyone that's bought this, unless you've got a pre with tons of gain, you've probably had to throw your volume right to the top. By volume, I mean gain here, so no one try to come for me. And you got a ton of noise. So you needed to buy a Cloudlifter, right? That adds to the cost. This is roughly like 450, 350. Add a Cloudlifter, that's about 70, 80 pounds. You're running into some big money. Whereas this, when I originally bought this maybe 15 years ago, this was 79 pounds. Now you can pick them up for 99 pounds. It doesn't need as much gain as this, but you can both put them through a Cloudlifter and have some fun. So it got me thinking, let me do some tests. I want to take some use cases that I know a lot of you guys do, which is podcast mic, spoken word, general VO work, and do the same with the 57 and see which one's better or which one would you prefer. So let's take a closer look at some of these microphones and discuss more of the differences between them. So this SM57, a lot of the times it's used as a snare mic, overhead. It's an all-purpose mic. You can get away with anything. And it's built like a tank. Trust me, loads of drummers have slapped up this exact mic here. I'll drop it now and I know it will work. You heard it. This thing is a tank. It is built well, don't get me wrong. However, I'm not going to drop that. You must be crazy. But it can take a beating, I'll tell you that. I've used this as a snare mic as well before when I ran out of some other mic options. But what's interesting is, if you take the windshield off the SM7B, you'll see the actual capsule right there. Here, you can see the capsule sizes. They're more similar than what you actually think. However, it is stated that this has a better bass response than this here. So let's run through some tests and actually see if that's the case. Could you save yourself some money by running through a trusty SM57? Or would you stick with the SM7B? I'm interested. Right now, guys, like, subscribe if you like the content. Let's keep it going, but let's start moving over to some of these tests. We're back. So I've got the mic set up in an XY setup. It's a bit of a pseudoscience right now because I've tried to position them as best as I can. However, I have level matched them. So the plan is I'm going to talk from various different positions and I will do it with unprocessed and processed. But one thing I did notice already from doing this recording is that with the SM57, I found out I did have to be a lot closer to the mic than I did with the SM7B. I think that's just also to do with the capsule shapes as well. So naturally I'll be a lot closer. So here you can hear the difference. Obviously this is proximity effect as well. But yeah, going through these two mics, obviously right now I'm talking through the SM7B and over here I'm talking through the SM57. So I'm going to talk through both of these mics and I'm going to do it unprocessed at various different distances. So we're going to go back right now and we're going to talk about something. What's actually interesting with these mics is that 10 hertz lower the SM57 goes than the SM7B. And the SM7B is supposed to be a mic that's typically, they say, is a bit more darker. But looking at the frequency response charts, I believe the SM7B goes 5,000 hertz higher. So technically, if you want more detail in the high end from the vocal that you're going to use this for, from the documentation, the SM7B should be your best bet. And we'll go closer. So with that in mind, I still think with some EQ, you can get really close by to either of these mics. With the SM57, I think you can tailor a nice sound with some EQ to get that SM7B sound. But one thing the SM7B does have that the SM57 doesn't have is a filter. There is a high pass filter, I believe correctly, on the back of the SM57. I'll probably show that and transpose a clip on top of this, and you can hear that. But that is quite interesting that 57 doesn't have that, SM7B does. So if that's something there that you find useful, do what you will with that. However, if you have an EQ going in, you could simulate a similar sort of thing with your EQ. But you may want to save time and just cut that with the audio going straight in. So now we're going to go super close. And you should be seeing the annotations on screen now with which mic you're actually hearing. And for some fun, I might just put on the Rode Lavalier mic on as well, just so you can hear a blend between all three different audios. So guys, I don't know which one you found better, but there's definitely a difference in price between these two options. One being £100, one being 450, maybe £350. And just to say, I'm not sure if I clarified it before, but they are both going through a Cloudlifter at the moment. To be specific, it is the CL2 Cloudlifter. So yes, this one has two inputs and they're both running through that right now. But just to make things a bit more obvious, I'm going to go right up to the grill to the SM57, and it may peak a bit, but we'll try to sort that out through post. And this is me going right up to the grill on the SM7B. I don't know if you guys hear any difference. You guys be the judge of that. Definitely, the windshield on the SM7B definitely helps with those plosives. When I go here, poly pocket, 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 poly pocket. I definitely heard the differences in those plosives. But if I move back a bit, poly pocket, poly pocket, poly pocket, poly pocket, poly pocket, poly pocket. With just some distance, that can make such a big change. But guys, I'm interested to hear in the comments which one you guys preferred, and do you think there is a premium well justified over the SM7B and the SM57? I'm intrigued to hear what you guys think, but play this back a couple of times and let us know. What I would also do is I will put the clips, a link to the clips for both mics in the description so you can hear it without of the compression of YouTube. I know some people are like, oh, it's YouTube, you can't hear the difference. Sometimes I think you can even still through YouTube. It may not be the highest fidelity and quality, but hey, a lot of people are listening to music, podcasts, and that through mediums such as that. Don't shoot the messenger, I'm just saying. But guys, thanks again for tuning in. Like, subscribe. Let me know which one that you prefer. Which one would you buy? Or would you just buy both? Hey, thanks for tuning in again. See you guys next week. Now, this test wasn't the most scientific, but if I'm being honest, I think it was skewed more to the SM57, just because of where the mic position was in relation to the camera. So as you can see, a lot of the times when I'm off axis on the SM7B, you can hear that slight thin tone. However, in the test where I'm a lot closer, you can hear that it's a lot more clearer and fuller. So keep that in mind when you listen back to these tests.